Joining us live right now to talk more about this is California's Attorney General Rob Bonta. Thank you so much for being with us this morning.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
I know that you will be sending a letter over to the U.S. Attorney General. As a fellow Attorney General, what is your reaction seeing this indictment come down?
Well, first, not a surprise. This was expected, but it is still a shocking and staggering abuse of power of the U.S. Department of Justice. And this is a erosion of the integrity of the U.S. DOJ, who is supposed to be independent and make decisions that are impartial and objective and fair and free of political influence. This is a political persecution, not a criminal prosecution. And it's unfortunately the latest stop on the vengeance tour of President Trump. He talked about going after AG James. He talked about going after James Comey. He's talked about going after U.S. Senator Adam Schiff. And when left to their own devices, their own independence, their own decisions, the DOJ is not prosecuting these individuals. But Trump has forced them to, even replacing a U.S. attorney, Eric Seibert, who decided he wasn't going to bring cases against Comey or against James, and then he replaced him, that U.S. attorney, with his own personal attorney, who has never prosecuted a case in her whole life, who is an insurance attorney. And then she promptly, loyally, at the bidding of Trump, fully weaponized the U.S. DOJ and brought charges against both Comey and against James. So it is very disturbing. It is a political and dangerous political escalation and weaponization of the U.S. DOJ, and this is not who we are in the United States of America.
Attorney General Bonta, as you mentioned, a prosecutor handpicked by President Trump is leading this case. Can you talk about why this is significant and the implications of this?
It's unprecedented for a U.S. president to demand the prosecution of a perceived political enemy, have the normally independent United States Department of Justice decline to do so based on the law, based on the facts, based on objective and impartial and fair evaluation, and with professional and legal and ethical obligations that they need to meet, and deciding that they cannot bring the case. And then the president himself, like literally personally on Truth Social, saying, you need Pam, referring to U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi, we need these people prosecuted. And then replacing that U.S. attorney with his hand-picked, hand-selected former personal attorney with no criminal prosecution experience to bring the case. That is the very definition of political weaponization, of political persecution, of political influence in what should be a fair process. So this harms trust of the people of America in our legal process. It is a weaponization of the process. Trump has personal vendettas and personal retribution he's seeking because of his personal grudges, and he's using the federal government's United States Department of Justice to do his bidding. It's dangerous, and this is a dangerous escalation.
What do you have to say, though, to people who say, look, she's accused now of mortgage fraud. She was doing her job in New York. She said that her primary residence was in Virginia. She got a better interest rate. She did something wrong. You even have the president's son, Eric Trump, saying last night on Newsmax, saying that she went after us to try to throw us out of New York, yet now she's indicted for allegedly doing exactly what she's accused us of. You have a number of people on the right using that type of argument this morning. What do you say to that?
I say, look at the facts, use your common sense, and don't try to play lawyer if you're not lawyer. There is a lawyer who looked at this independently. He was the U.S. Attorney of the Eastern District of Virginia. His name's Eric Seibert. He looked at this and determined there was no case. You could not bring a case. And right now, a high-level criminal prosecutor serving under the hand-picked replacement of Eric Seibert, who is Lindsay Halligan, but the high-level attorney is Elizabeth Yusi. She is advising that there is no case here. So look at the attorneys who are looking at the case and see what they are saying. Don't try to be a Monday morning quarterback attorney if you're not even an attorney. Those are political arguments. That's the right saying we should try to justify political weaponization of the U.S. DOJ when there's no justification for it. This is not something that we should be doing in the United States of America. It's anti-democratic. It's against our rule of law, our traditions. It hurts trust in our legal system. So look who's saying it. These are the son of Trump and his family, the supporters of Trump, who are doing desperately trying to justify something that is not justifiable.
Before I let you go, it's my understanding that you will be sending a letter to United States Attorney General Pam Bondi. What do you plan to say to her, and what's in the letter?
Look, I sent a letter to Pam Bondi when FCC Chairman Brendan Carr wrongfully harmed the First Amendment rights of ABC and Jimmy Kimmel, and wrongfully, because of the content of the speech, tried to pressure a network to take a certain individual off the air. I wrote a letter to Pam Bondi when James Comey was also 2 weeks ago, the victim of political weaponization of the U.S. DOJ. And I've written a letter now to tell her to reassert the independence of the U.S. DOJ. Be a leader. Do what you're supposed to do with the U.S. DOJ, which is to look at the law, look at the facts, be fair, be impartial, be objective, be free of politicization, and do your job. And she shouldn't need a reminder for that, but apparently she does. And we've written a very pointed letter talking about the staggering abuse of power here and the need to reassert the independence and the fairness at the U.S. DOJ.
I'm getting a hard rap, so I have to be quick about this. But if you sent all those letters, have you gotten any response?
We haven't gotten any response directly from them, and don't expect it. But it's important that we continue to plant flags in the ground about our principles and never accept the unacceptable, never normalize what's so abnormal, and continue to speak up, speak out, talk about this horrific and staggering abuse of power and violation of often law and also the traditions of the United States of America. So we will continue to speak up and speak out. It's up to them whether they want to actually follow the law and follow our democratic institutions. But I'm not particularly concerned about a response. It's important to me to state what is so wrong, what is so such an abuse of power, what is a violation of the long tradition of independence of the U.S. DOJ, and it's up to them to fulfill their duties appropriately.
California Attorney General Rob Bonta, thank you so much for being with us this morning. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.